Welcome to the official podcast of the National Pickleball League, where we go inside the NPL.
Welcome to Everything and the Kitchen Dink. My name is Michael Hammer Mike Chen, along with my co-host, Rick Witsken, David, the Professor George, although his nickname these days are almost Professor Dr. Evil, I think, is a new nickname he might have. At least the Houston Hammers will say that. Houston Hammers might be calling that. We'll get into that shortly. We're missing our other co-host, Jennifer Bone Crusher Gallwas, but we'll have her back in the next episode.
Hello, Jen.
And we will have a special guest from Seattle United Pickleball later on, Cara Beth Lee. But now let's get started with our this week's podcast. Very interesting show. We're going to talk about lots of things, focusing on Seattle. But before we do that, I would just want to thank all our sponsors of the National Pickleball League, because without them, we wouldn't have a league. And so, first of all, we want to thank Gamma, which is the official ball of the National Pickleball League, Chuck by Gamma. Gearbox, which is the official paddle of the National Pickleball League. Julian Coffee, the official coffee. Ken Julian plays in our league, as well as Incrediware, Ernie, the ball machine, and Fat Tire, which we all have a drink after a tough day of pickleball. As well as Rick, I think you want to thank a few other people, right?
Yeah, well, we definitely want to thank Amy Yarbrough for stepping in and being a great sideline commentator this past weekend. She did a phenomenal job, and I want to thank the head of the facilities of that we've been playing at. Obviously, Bill Taylor, and we've got Mitch Dunn coming up, and we just really appreciate all they do to highlight the senior pros. And I also want to give a quick little shout out to my boy Dylan Frazier, who just got the #1 in the world in men's double. Wow. So he's a guy that cares about senior pros. I played split age with him. He loves split age too, and so shout out to him as well.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. And David, anybody you want to thank, or you don't want to thank anybody?
Why would I thank anyone? Everyone's starting to boo me now, Mike, thanks to you. Like, I just walk around. I have one little hot take, and now I just walk by whole groups of people, whole teams are just like, boo. I'm like, what'd I do?
Yeah, well, let's talk about them. Houston Hammers, I think they're gunning for you. I think they're all like walking around after every win. They say, this one's on David. Tell David we won this. Take that, David. Why is Houston Hammers on you?
I was booed mercilessly by the Houston Hammers. You know, Amy, Sherry, oh my God, Mary Beth Henthorne, just giving me so much, grief. Just cheering every mistake and error. Even my buddy Craig at 2 Bobo. And so I would like to make a public apology to the Hammers.
Wow. A public.
Whoa.
Ricky, you hear this? He's not Dr. Evil. He's actually turning from Professor Evil to nice guy, David. Wow.
Let me get my calculator, because I'm going to make a specific apology. I would like to make an apology to the Hammers for $3,600. Because that is how much I cost the Houston Hammers as a team by beating them with the KC Stingers and sending them from first to second place. I would like to apologize, $3,600 worth. And I must say myself, I personally took down the Pod 1 double teams of Scott Moore and Rich Lopez. And did I mention I kicked Sherry's ass 2 whole points? And KC won the tiebreaker. Right? I mean, and then I let them goof around. They hit me with their stupid hammer and their stupid mascot. I thought they had forgiven me until I started yelling 257. They're like, what's 257? I'm like, well, 257 is $3,600 divided by 14. So I personally cost each of you $257. So I would like to apologize $257 worth to each and every one of the Houston Hammers.
Whoa.
Rick, what do you have to say to that?
Well, I mean, David, not a loss for words, not a loss for, turning something good into a negative, but you almost did the sandwich where you got a little positive because anyway, I'm a little bit of a shock, but I will say this. I played against the Houston Hammers. I saw their mascot. I saw their hammer. their cheer right on top of my match. Insanity. You feel like barbs are flying. They want to be known. They want to be recognized. They maybe even have won up the Indy drivers cheer. OKC is doing a great job with their team cheer as well. But I'm not going to apologize for my brother, David George, taking money out of their pocket because they need to be a little bit nicer. Good job, David.
Wow. And I thought he was going to compliment the whole team. Look, I was going to compliment because Hugh Zhang, an owner, had to step in on Sunday afternoon play. And Hugh Zhang doesn't play at senior pro generally. He came in, he won a match. Like Hugh Zhang won a huge match Sunday afternoon. Good for Hugh Zhang. I was going to compliment Hugh Zhang. Missy Grant, I love playing with. They got good players team. I love Romy Maxey and holy cow. But looks like David George is going to make this podcast, a tough one to talk about the Houston Hammers. But maybe you're going to have to bring on the Houston Hammers on our next podcast to counter what David just said on this. What do you guys think? Next podcast.
I think they have so many good guests. We don't really need them.
Well, I think they've got a lot of legends on their team, and I think they've got a lot of great players. I think they're a fiery bunch, and I think they're great for the league. So I would love to have more than one of them come on to this podcast because I got a lot of questions for them, especially after my 11-10 in the third victory over Sherry Corder and Scott Moore. That was one of my most enjoyable matches of my career, let alone the NPL.
Wow. Shots are being fired. Houston Hammers, 7-1, first place. You can tell a lot of teams are gunning for them. Obviously, the Kansas City Stingers with David George and Rick Witsken with what's your record with the Indy drivers? I think
Michael,
you're the last I checked.
Rude.
Listen,
1-7. How you guys going to come back from 1-7?
Houston Hammers is an amazing team. We lost 5-7. Coachella Valley, great team. We went to a team breaker. Denver, first match out of the gate, we didn't have Mills. We took them to 5-7. So if anybody wants to overlook, the truth is this crazy team called the Kansas City Stingers, they're the only team that really dominated us. But aside from that, we've been a force to be reckoned with, and we are slow playing this season, Michael. You probably don't understand this, but in a way, you want to make sure you have that solid foundation and kind of let the little minnows be caught in the beginning. And we're looking to catch a big shark or a big largemouth bass. There's a lot of largemouths in the NPL. We're going to catch that big kahuna on championship weekend. We're slow playing it, Michael.
Michael, never underestimate the heart of a champion, of the world champion Indy drivers 2023. I'll mention it so Rick doesn't have to. So never underestimate the heart of a champion.
But you're not giving up on the Indy drivers this year.
No.
You guys are going to come back, right? It's not you're going to come back and take the league by its storm, right? If I know Rick, I know you're going to leave it out there on the court.
Look, just because my team deserves a little love, the fact of the matter is we didn't have Mills the first two matches. The fact of the matter is one of our top two women, Heather Iffert, tore her calf. I wish her a speedy recovery right before this last event. If we get our whole team healthy, sound mind, sound body, we are going to be like fine wine, Michael. I know you like fine wine. We're going to age really well. And come October, you watch out. You do not want to play us first round, second round, third round, or as a repeat champion. You don't want to play us.
Wow. Okay. Well, we've got a few more weeks before that happens. In the meantime, just want to go over the standings again. Houston Hammers in first, tied with Denver Iconics, who we had Chris Montgomery on at 7-1. So those are the two teams atop the leaderboard. But then we have three other teams at 6-2. We have the Boca Raton Picklers at 6-2. We have the Coachella Valley Scorpions at 6-2, and they got a tough team. And we had Dane Gingrich on as well. And we have the Seattle United Pickleball team also at 6-2. We have not talked a lot about Seattle, right? Which is owned by Stephen Keller, and James Main is the general manager. They've done a great job drafting the team. And, I want to go inside this episode and really dig into their team and one of the stars that was probably not heard of in the senior pro ranks for a while. And she's taken the NPL by storm. And it's my pleasure to kind of introduce to you our guest for this podcast today, Cara Beth Lee. Cara Beth Lee, who is on the Seattle United Pickleball team. Just want to welcome Cara Beth Lee. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Okay, Cara Beth, people call you CB. Your friends call you CB for short.
Yep.
So should we call you CB or should we call you CB and have David George call you Cara Beth?
Well, I guess it remains to be seen with David since, Professor Evil, but definitely friends call me CB. So please, Michael and Rick, call me CB.
All right, great.
Man.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I looked at your background. Two very interesting things. First of all, you graduated from Indiana University, right?
Hoosier.
Hoosier.
Yeah.
You got two Hoosiers here. My son went to Indiana University, so we're all Hoosier family right here.
Excellent. That's excellent.
So that's exciting. But what we are all not is what you are. You are a surgeon. Wow, you are a surgeon by day. Can you tell us a little bit about that career?
Yeah. Well, I was an orthopedic surgeon, so went straight from undergrad to med school in Indiana and then moved to Seattle for residency back in 1995. So I'm kind of a native Seattleite now after this amount of time, but practiced till about a year ago. So that's what has allowed me to play some more pickleball, that I stopped doing face-to-face clinical care for lots of reasons, but it was kind of time to make a transition. I still do some non-clinical kind of case review work now, but that's opened up my schedule. So yeah, that was what I did for the past 25 years.
Do you specialize in any joints specifically?
Yeah, the last 10 or so years, I did hip preservation surgery. So a lot of hip arthroscopy, people with labral tears and things like that, or people who have pre-arthritic conditions like hip dysplasia. We hear about hip dysplasia in our golden retrievers, but humans have it too. So there's some surgeries that you can do in younger people before they have arthritis if they're having hip pain, to try to prevent or delay the onset of arthritis. So
you might have a new set of clientele with the National Pickleball League,
Plenty of options.
I've had a couple side consults. The knees are the issue, it seems like, but yeah.
So tell me,
Cara Beth. Sorry,
Yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
I want to interject here.
Go.
So Cara Beth, I want to call you CB for championship baller, but I'm going to call you CBD, championship baller, darn it. Because I didn't really know you before this year. And boy, you're taking the world by storm. You're winning big matches. You're playing line one. I mean, what's your secret sauce? I love your owner, Stefan and James. And you got David and, another Stefan. My gosh, two Stefans. How do you deal with that? But
yeah.
What's your secret sauce for having such a great season with Seattle up to this point?
Well, I think the secret sauce, and definitely shout out to Stefan Keller and James for just drafting a wonderful team off the court, first of all, and then, on the court, obviously, we have great depth. And I think my secret sauce is I'm not playing singles out there, right? You put me on the court with Anna Shirley, it's a blast. She's such a competitor. And so we're having so much fun, and we play a similar style of game. We like to, I come from tennis, so we like to play aggressively. So that's been great. And then I've played both with Stefan Andren and Dave Furman. So, I'm fortunate to have great partners, and that's the secret sauce is, finding the partners who could compete with.
You're being kind of modest. I looked at your record. I think your record after 2 weekends is 13-3. Which is among the best records right now in NPR playing, and that's playing pod 1. It's not 13-3 playing pod 3. You're 13-3, who nobody really knew you in the senior pickleball world, right? In the Champions Pro world. You come on, you're playing pod 1 right away, and you're 13-3. And on top of that, I think you're 8-0 in gender doubles. You've lost a couple of close ones.
Not to be suspicious, but yeah, did you just
No,
say
we're
that?
scouting it. Yeah, first of all, 8-0 in gender doubles impressive, and you lost a couple of close matches in mixed doubles. One to Chris Headings, I think, was a great one, and Natalie Bagby, which is no slouch. And you lost a close one to Dane Gingrich and Kim J, like 11-10 in the third on those. So, you could have been 15-1 or close to that. When did you pick up pickleball, and how did you get so good? Tell us, how long have you been playing pickleball? People want to know how long have you been playing pickleball. And what's your secret? What's your real secret? Have you been drilling every single day? Like, what's your practice regime?
I'm not going to give away my secrets. I'm not crazy. So I've been playing 2 years actually. I credit my sister. My sister's pickleball 60 this year, so she'd be she and I played our first tournament together July of 2022. We played a small tournament in Cincinnati when we were in town for a niece's wedding, and so she had been trying to get me to play. She played tournament pickleball with her husband for several years. They were going to the U.S. Open, doing a lot of the USAPA sanctioned tournaments. And she kept telling me, "You'll love the sport. You'll love the sport." And I honestly couldn't get over the name. I thought it sounded silly, even though I come from the Pacific Northwest where it originated. And I do appreciate the source of the name because it was based on rowing. You guys are familiar with that, right? That it wasn't the dog that was named Pickles. That came later. It's because apparently in rowing, the pickle boat is the team members that didn't get picked up on in other boats. And so because pickleball was, kind of the scrapping together badminton, table tennis, and tennis, they called it pickleball. So, but I was that snooty tennis player that kind of refused to play. But I'll tell you what made the difference. And Rick, you're going to love this. So I decided, because Seattle winters are so awful, I went to see my sister and her husband play in Arizona, Mesa, Arizona, APP, spring of 2022. And it was the first time I'd seen a real, high level competitive tournament. So I'm standing at this fence watching this guy, Rick Witsken and Beth Bellamy, sort of take it to everyone. And it was before the PPA contracts. So I think J.W. Johnson, Deckel Barr, Vivian David, Zane Navratil, all those people were there. And I just was absolutely hooked. I mean, after that Mesa tournament, I just said, I absolutely have to start playing this sport. So started that spring, and then first real tournament was in Newport, kind of Labor Day weekend 2022. So
wow,
that's a long story.
That's awesome. No, I mean, really, that's great. And honestly, seeing the next level always seems super inspirational. My daughter she's 19 years old. She went to the NPL event in Columbus, and she's asked me to play with her every day since we've come from that. And I've actually played with her 0 times because we've been super busy. But I do think there's that element of seeing it live. Yeah. That's just so it can draw you in. I mean, the intensity in the matches. I mean, your Seattle team, my gosh, you guys have stickers everywhere. You have banners everywhere. Those guys know how to market their team. Your Instagram account. Oh my gosh, James and Stefan, you guys know what you're doing. I hate to say this, but I love your team, and we haven't even played you yet. We're coming in for you in Cincinnati, but don't be scared. We typically don't beat anybody 12-0.
And when they say they have stickers everywhere, we mean almost everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that, David?
No, I think we talked about it enough last time. But Cara Beth, let me ask you, what did you think of the NPL starting, and have you been surprised? Anything caught you off guard? What do you think of the first 2 events so far?
That's a great question. I didn't play last year. I also have to give some credit to Mark Milner. He really encouraged me to play last year, and I didn't for several reasons. And in retrospect, I think I'm glad that I didn't, simply because I've matured as a player. I think I wouldn't have the confidence coming in that I, had I played last year. I think it's not surprising. I love team events, and the energy is so fantastic. I guess that is to some degree a surprise, but just looking everywhere, seeing how many people are at these events, and just everyone cheering for their team. And when the tight matches, just everybody circled around. And I really hope that even some people who have been watching on YouTube and the live stream and then got an opportunity to come to Columbus, they just said it's such a huge difference. So I think just seeing us 50 plus folks competing at a high level and being there in person has been just gratifying.
Well, I'm not surprised that in 2 years you've gone from playing pickleball to being one of the best in the game, period. I heard that you did Ironman. Like, how do you go from a surgeon to doing Ironman? Like, and what I heard from your sisters, when you are determined to do something, you're focused, right? So you did Ironman, I don't know how many hours you train for that, but I wouldn't be surprised if you trained 8 hours a day at pickleball to get yourself ready. So not a lot of people listen to this podcast, but just among the three of us, tell us like, what's your secret? Like
the three of us. I do drill a lot. I think that's been established. That's so critical. Just getting the reps in for the confidence in shots. Like for example, a big part of mixed doubles for the woman is really if it's a team, two teams of righties, being able to thread the needle and keep that cross court forehand dink away from an aggressive guy. And from a technical standpoint, everybody in the NPL can hit that shot, but hitting that shot thousands and thousands of times so that it's rote memory in your body instead of getting in your head, like, do not leave this high. So drilling for sure. I actually don't play 7 days a week. I play about 4 days a week just to maintain fitness in other ways, because I do get sore. And so I think making sure my endurance and trying to do strength training on the off days and not overplaying is actually.
So that's a good tip. So there's a balance. You don't play pickleball every day. You do strength training, endurance to keep in shape, and you play pickleball enough and you drill a lot to have a nice balance, which I think is important. So let me take you through one match that I saw live in person, and I watched it again. It was Saturday morning. You're playing against Austin. You guys were up 6-5 in the team matches, and it came down to your match. If you won, you guys clinch the team battle 7-5. If you lose, it goes to a team breaker. You're playing with David Furman, and you're playing against John Hostetler and Leslie Bernard. Third set, you guys are down 10-7. So, Austin's like, yep, this is going to team breaker. I could see them warming up, getting ready for team breaker. And I watched it then and I watched it again. You took over at 10-7. I mean, you took over. First of all, you talked about the cross-court dink. You were cross-court dinking with Leslie Bernard like 7 or 8 times. You guys were great. But you won that battle. So you made that 10-8. And at 10-8, then all of a sudden, there's a dink battle going on, and then John hits a ball, and you counterattacked it behind him for a winner to make it 10-9. Like, wow, that's 2 straight points, Cara Beth. This is like at a big moment. 10-9. Then I think Leslie Bernard hits a great dink cross court when you're behind. You come running for it, and you ATP at 10-9 down the line, and you ran all the way to their side, all the way across to tie the game up 10-10. That's 3 straight points you made amazing play on. And at 10-10, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's CB going to do now? Back and forth, the dinking was going on, and all of a sudden, you dink the ball that maybe was a little bit high, and John poached that dink, and he hit it hard at your backhand, and you blocked it behind him for the winner, 11-10. 4 different shots you hit to win 11-10. At the point when a lot of people would break down, you were playing the best pickleball. That's not only physical toughness, that's mental toughness. So talk a little bit about the mental game, because, Dan Gingrich had talked about it, the pickleball mindset in his book. Talk about how you prepare yourself in that moment. And I knew you were ready, because when you're down 10-7, you were laughing with David Furman. You're smiling. You didn't feel stressed. So talk about your mental game as well.
Thanks for walking through that, Michael. That was a fun couple of points for sure. I'd like to joke and just say, well, we were hungry, so we kind of just wanted to finish it and not have the team breaker so we could go to lunch. But I think for me, I was a really competitive tennis player, but I knew there was definitely a ceiling to what I could achieve in tennis. And the mental game got the best of me. And so one of the promises I made to myself, if I was going to play competitive pickleball, was to not take it too seriously. I mean, we are people in our 50s, and I'm just grateful to be able to play. And so in those points, it's not that I don't feel the pressure by any means, but I just try to focus on playing a good point and not worrying about the score or the outcome. Because had we lost it, we'd play a team breaker. Had we lost, there's another match in Chicago that was critical, and we lost the match because of Stefan and I didn't step up at critical moments. So I think the consequences are I've lost a pickleball match. So I think it's just keeping that perspective and trying to keep that in the moment, and then just really focusing on the ball. I mean, in the moment, just seeing the ball, trying to slow things down as much as I can, and just focus on the ball and not the score or the circumstances.
Well, you did
Cara
play a
Beth.
team. You did play a team breaker. Sorry, let me just finish this. You did play a team breaker.
David, how much
later.
time we got? How much time we got,
I don't
David?
know, but
Oh,
like,
yeah,
3 hours.
I have like
Well,
a bunch
Michael
of notes, but I
again.
haven't even got to anything yet. Like,
Go ahead, Michael.
Go
Keep
ahead,
going,
Thank you.
Michael.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm on a roll right now. And you'll like this one, Rick. 'cause
Every
you did
episode's
play a
roll,
team
Michael.
breaker. You did play a team breaker on Sunday morning, and you played it against our Kansas City Stingers. And as much as I love David George and Saad Ipses,
Oh.
you faced off two women, and it only happens in a team breaker. Two women, right? You and Anna Shirley faced off against two men, David George and Saad Ipses. That doesn't happen in pickleball, but that happened in the team breaker. And I'm thinking, okay, David and Saad's going to take a huge lead. We're up 6-4, and I'm like, they're going to roll right over you and Anna, make it 8-4. And I was wrong. You guys went toe-to-toe to Saad and David. Tell me about your experience about playing against two men and two women in such a big situation, and how you were able to go toe-to-toe with my friend David and Saad.
Well, I think, you just know they're going to hit it hard at you. It's just mixed minus a woman across the court. So we knew that they were going to come with their power. I do play a lot with guys in Seattle. I think that helps a lot. So I enjoy when the ball is driven hard at me. So playing Jen Dawson is super fun in that regard. And then on the Kansas City team. And then, so I said to Anna, I said, just get low and expect them to hit hard at us. And she had a phenomenal lob, because you did get to 7-4, I believe. And then she had a phenomenal lob, and we stayed in the point to get the side out, and then managed to put a couple on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
So
Great
We
job.
should have interrupted him, Rick. I don't know why he had that. It's
I
like
agree.
so embarrassing. I think we lost that tiebreaker 11-10. So those 2 points that you got were the difference. I mean, we basically played even. Like instead of taking a lead, like we wanted to, it's just 8-6, and then you're able to come back. So I appreciate you talking nonstop forever to ask that question, Michael.
Yeah, good job, Michael. Cara Beth, listen, I want to talk, because we haven't talked enough about Seattle and the team and the composition. What I love about this league, Cara Beth, is the 188 players, and they all have a story, and they all have a background. And sideline reporter Amy Yarbrough, we talked a little bit on air last event weekend about some of the hearing impaired players, Sally Smithley and Kelly Dakin, and how impressed we are with how they navigate that aspect of the lack of hearing and playing this game at a high level. And then we talk about Ken Julian, who's got Parkinson's disease, and this is a big part of it. So my question, and by the way, I love Anna Shirley. She's the most incredible human being, and she always brings me popcorn, because I played mixed double with her tons of times. So shout out to her. She's an incredible teammate. I know that. But is there anybody on your team that kind of has that story that's kind of outside the line, so to speak? It's not just about their playing acumen that you want to give a shout out to?
Gosh, not that I don't well enough know the stories yet. That's a great question, but I'm trying to think.
I mean, Stefan had quite a background that we found out in trivia, right? With
Indeed,
him being in a gang, and whoa,
he got beat up.
Yeah. He was at our table, and he didn't even divulge it until afterwards. That was great. So no, I'll that's a great question. I'll probe more of my teammates' stories. But
who surprised you? Who on your team has surprised you with their play? Like you're impressed, like, wow, this person can really play.
Well, each of our teammates steps up in their own ways. I think I'm really excited for Patty Bennett, because she's pretty new to pickleball, and she's Anna Shirley's sister. And so she's only been playing about a year. And I know she was super nervous the first weekend, and you can just see match by match how her game is improving. But yeah, I mean, just the entire team has great talent.
From my mixed partner and clinic partner and podcast partner, Jen Gallwas, she says, "You can speak for me during the podcast, say," she have to quote her exactly. Jen couldn't be with us today, but she wanted me to mention how impressed she was with your play. Her amazing ATP, which we mentioned earlier, 10-10 in the third, prevented the team breaker. So basically, she's making excuses why her record is so bad as a team. So she says thanks, and then she also says it's totally on your shoulders to carry the podcast today. Oh, I just added that part. So anyway, yeah, no, that was a crazy, awesome match, and I'm really glad you beat Austin in that match, and it didn't go to a breaker.
You know, Cara Beth, I have a question for you, and for David too. Really, are you loving the league? And if you are, what would you say to potential sponsors or potential team owners for why they should get involved?
I absolutely love the league. I'm so grateful to Rick, you, and Michael and Beth for just conceiving this and making it happen. I hope this is just kind of a dream come true for you all. I think you know, MLP is fun watching the youngsters play, but I think pickleball really, seeing us at the 50 plus ages compete the way we are, I think nationally, internationally, with the demographic of pickleball right now, that we actually are the premier team league. And so I think just seeing the energy around it, what I would tell them is kind of what I referenced earlier, is come to one of these events and just see the energy, that's the camaraderie among teams, but also we're all friends between teams, other than, you know, Professor Evil, but you know, the rest of us really get along. So when I'm not watching my team, I'm walking over to see, gosh, you know, how are these people doing? How are that people doing? So I think it's the best. It's what pickleball is, right? It's the best of a competitive situation where opponents are friends on the court, off the court, for the most part. You know, I mean, certainly there's some gamers, but yeah, I think it's the energy, and I think representing at our age, that's what sponsors need to see.
That's great. I think you mentioned it earlier, and I would add to that, Rick. It really is the atmosphere. I don't even know how to describe it. It is just an incredible atmosphere. It's both an individual and team sport at the same time. To have all your teammates rooting for you when, you know, you're down 6-5 and you have to win, or you're up 6-5, you have to close it out. There's really nothing like it. I mean, I've told this story, not as much as Rick has said that Indy is the champion last year, but I've told this story before. January 28, 12:01 after midnight, 2023, I was the first person to sign up for the NPL because I could see some of this. I'm like, this is the best idea in the history of the world. I knew Rick. I didn't know Beth and Michael, so I was all in, and it's exceeded my expectations. At the end of last year, I couldn't wait. I can't believe we had to wait so long to play again this year. And I think I would tell anyone, potential sponsors, and I know this has happened a few times, come to an event to see for yourself. The Incrediware people, when they came, you know, Tony was blown away, you know, things like that. Potential owners. How many potential owners came last year and saw it, and now they own a team? So I think that's the secret, to see it live in person. There's nothing like the atmosphere.
You know, to piggyback on that, Cara Beth, thank you, David. The owner of Seattle, Stefan, what he said as to his reasoning for why he bought a team, while you're on his team, was the spiritual connectivity of the NPL and its family is what he wanted to buy into. It wasn't even about the investment aspect, which we believe it's a great long-term investment, but he could feel that, and that was even through our live stream and with the people that he knew. I was so impressed with Stefan, and he even indicated that at our meetings, Michael, if you remember, to all of the owners, that's why he jumped in, because he could feel the family. And you're right, Cara Beth, like, I don't know you that well. That kind of, hey, Cara Beth, you're playing great, like a little bit, but I mean that. Like, you have caught my eye, and I'm like, dang, you 2 years and you're that good. I mean, imagine if I actually got to play twice a week versus 4 times a week like you do in drilling. Maybe I could be as good as you someday. But it's super great to meet somebody like you, and I can't wait to play your team. And I love Stefan and Dave, obviously Anna. I mean, you got a lot of great people on your team, so looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, I think you'll be playing Cara Beth sooner or later, and you'll see her on the court. You guys are both Pod 1 top players, and I would love to be at center court broadcasting and watching you guys play against each other. But Before we go, Cara Beth, thank you for joining our show.
Thanks for having me.
You're too humble to predict what your record will be next week, so I won't ask you that question. But I want to ask you what you think Seattle's going to do next week. You guys are 3-1 week 1, 3-1 week 2. Do you project another 3-1 a record for your team in week 3, or do you think there's going to be a little bit come back to the normal and in the mid range, or do you think you're going to keep this kind of streak going at 3-1 or better?
Yeah, no, I think we'll come back to our normal, which actually should be 4-0 next week, next time, because our 2 losses were 7-5 losses. That's it. So Coachella, that was 7-5, and then Denver. Yeah, shout out to Denver. But we were up. I think we lost every single mixed match. We were up 5. What would that be? I can't do the math, but we were up big going into mixed, and so. No, it'll be a blast because we'll face Indy for the first time. We'll face Houston. We'll face Boca. So it's just looking forward to it. It's going to be spectacular matches. And
so you're going to have some good matches next week. And David, any closing question from Professor Eva? Like, are you going to ask her a tough question? Because me and Rick just can't ask such a superstar such a tough question. So you got the last word, Dave. You want to ask her?
I wasn't going to ask her any tough questions because I was a big fan. And then now I know that she's just as much of a prima donna as all those other people, especially the Houston Hammers. I wonder, I don't even know who to root for when they play each other. Is it possible that they can both lose? I don't know. I'm afraid to ask the question I asked last time that started all this trouble, but are there any kind of behind the scenes, people that aren't really as nice as they seem? Because everyone seems really nice, but there's no way they can really be that nice.
Everyone's super nice.
Oh, see. So it's like that adage in poker: if you don't see a sucker at the table, it's you. So maybe you're the issue. 3-1 isn't good enough. We actually should be 4-0 compared to all the other teams. So, all right. So maybe now I'll get booed by Seattle instead of Houston. Take the pressure off.
Well, again, thank you so much, CB. It's a delight.
Thanks for having me.
You're a great player. I just can't wait to keep watching on the court and learning from you, like your shots, the way you play in the tough moments, and we're just so fortunate to have you in a National Pickleball League as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks so much
for playing with us.
Yeah, hey, and so my closing thought to you, CBD. That's my nickname for you, CBD. Make sure you bring your scalpel when you play Indy, because you're going to need to be a surgeon to win that match. Good luck to the Seattle United.
There will be blood. Yeah. All right. We'll see you in Cincy.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Wow. She's a great guest, isn't she? What an exciting, inspirational person who took the NPL by storm. Like I said, nobody knew who she was. Took Senior Pro by storm, right? The Champion Pros. She did not play a lot of tournaments before this, and now she's as good as they get. And I can't wait to see her even get better. So it'll be some great battles. I know Beth, Sherry, Jen Dawson, all those top women, Natalie Bagby, they all will enjoy battling with CB.
Michael, I'll say this. I think that Cara Beth, and everybody has their own story of what initiated their passion. But I just want to encourage everybody that is in the NPL, and maybe they're watching, to take what's in their head. And if they bring that into their heart and they go for it and they go for it and they go for the combine and they go for the training and they go all in on their nutrition and fitness, this is what makes me so happy about the NPL, is it can bring this into here, which makes you so much happier and healthier. And Cara Beth obviously is a perfect example of somebody that's, thriving in only 2 years in. So it can be done. It doesn't have to be a long-term, been in it for 10 years. No, go for it, people. We want you. And put it on the line.
Great. There's so many amazing athletes in our league. I'm looking at David Wells right now. We're about to play a little bit. The fitness level of some of these people is extraordinary. And having a place, an outlet for that athleticism, for that fitness, I know for me personally has just been great, right? It gives you something to look forward to, something to work towards. And all those aspects of pickleball in general and the NPL specifically have just been tremendous.
Hey, sorry. One thing, Michael. I just wanted to give a shout out to Adam Painter, who was amazing. We didn't really touch upon him,
MVP.
but what he did at line one with Chris Headings, I loved watching him. He was thrust into that limelight, and he did great. He's also a big support of our league and awesome with camps and things. So shout out to Adam, great player and way to represent for your Columbus team being put up into line one when they had Hedberg out.
I know they beat Mirsha and Tao, and they lost the close one to Stefan and Dave, who we just talked about. But what an amazing weekend. MVP, Adam.
That's great. Well, next week when we get on the podcast, we'll start looking at week 3 and some projections for week 3 and who's going to do well, who's going to surprise. So I can't wait to get you guys on the next podcast. And obviously, David, I don't know if you're going to make another public apology next podcast, but stay tuned, everyone.
Yes, we'll see.
So with that, this is Michael Hammer Mike Chen, along with my co-host, Rick Ripskin Witsken, David the Professor, Evil George.
Oh, what?
And on behalf of Jennifer Bone Crusher Gallwas, this is Everything and the Kitchen Dink, where we go inside the NPL. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to the official podcast of the National Pickleball League. Please stay tuned as we will be back soon with our next episode as we go inside the NPL.